It's like every night is really good right now. And again, not to belabor it too much, we all know the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs are always awesome. I always remind you, it's because this is when the teams are the healthiest. And you get the most drama, and you get lead changes, and you get amazing games, you get surprises, you get twists and turns, you get Kirill Kaprizov making incredible passes to Matt Boldy. Again, I'm telling you, I know it was late last night. I get it. In the East, that's an 11 o'clock start. I get it. But Minnesota, Vegas make the best games. They really do. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators go into overdog. Max Domi scores as Father Ty is in the stands, sitting in his seats. His buddies all high-fiving him. Overtime winner, the biggest goal he's maybe scored in his career for Max Domi. Hasn't been the best of all possible seasons offensively. For Max, biggest goal he's scored, OT winner. But I don't think anyone thinks for 1 second that series is done. Maybe, Zach, we'll get your thoughts on this. Maybe the only series that we look at and say, yeah, you know what, this thing is probably already over and may have already been over in game one. It's Carolina and New Jersey.
Yeah.
That might be the only one. That might be. I know you were busy last night. I know you had your festivities at Greta Bar last night. I'm sure the crowd was rocking. I hope that neither you nor Vic were overserved last night, but if you were, you probably deserved it considering it was an OT thriller for your Toronto Maple Leafs. Minnesota ties it up against the Vegas Golden Knights. And the Florida Panthers, as we like to say, reminded everybody. Can I tell a quick story about the word reminded?
Yes, please do.
I have permission?
Yes.
So Marty McSorley told me this story when I used to work with Marty. And he said when he first joined the Oilers, he was there with Dave Semenko. Dave Semenko was like the king of the jungle. One of the toughest ever to do it, and nobody messed with Dave. And Dave had like this deep voice, and he was very quiet, and he was very reserved. And Marty was just like young gunslinger, wanted to fight every night. And so he gets there, and Semenko's like, nope, we're not going to do it tonight, Marty. Nope, we're not going to do it tonight. A couple games go by. Nope, we're not going to do it tonight. And then Marty says one day he walked into the Oilers dressing room, and he saw Dave taping up his wrists. And Marty said to him, Dave, what are you doing? He goes, Marty, every now and then we must remind them. And tonight we will remind them. You have to have known Dave Semenko. It is such a Dave Semenko line. Tonight we will remind them. The Florida Panthers last night reminded everybody just how good they are. I know down the stretch, Tampa was the new hotness. Oh, look at this. They're doing it again. All of a sudden, the Florida Panthers are firing balloons past the netminder, Andrei Vasilevsky, who last time I checked is probably going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Kachuk, 2 goals, 1 assist. Was it annoyance all night? A botched goalie interference call by John Cooper, who himself said, I own it. I own it. That was a pretty impressive game last night by Florida. That was the Florida Panthers reminding everybody who they are, defending Stanley Cup champions. Count them out. Count them out if you wish. A wise person won't sleep on them. Anyway, your thoughts on last night?
Yeah, I caught Carolina, New Jersey, a lot of the beginning of that one. My attention then directed to Toronto, Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And then I got the end/mid to end of Minnesota, Vegas. So that was kind of how my night broke down. The one that I like, look, as a Leafs fan, I would like to say and be able to say that this thing is over. I think last night is regardless of how the Leafs played, I think is a positive sign for Leafs fans the Leafs in that room to be like, hey, we didn't play our best game. We walked away with the win. We're up 2-0 in this series, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. I think all of us know, given especially who they are, it's never over until it's over. That Carolina, New Jersey one, look, I'm sorry, New Jersey, but that one feels over. It felt over before it started. Last night was probably the best effort that they had.
How about Brent Burns headbutting Timo Meyer?
So I saw the headline of it. Because I missed it live, and I saw the headline and the social media going around, and it was like, head butted. Yeah, okay. Do you think he, like, headbutted him? Do you know what I mean?
Isn't. No, hang on.
Like, I
First
think
of
he,
all,
like, put his head forward. I don't think he headbutted him.
he put his head forward, probably trying to push him back. But it's a headbutt.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
Headbutts used to exist in the NHL regularly. And you know what also used to exist in the NHL? Hair pulling. Before they put helmets on everybody. If you go back and you look at fights in the 70s, Gary Howitt, there's a hilarious, like, I mean hilarious clip of Dave Schultz, the Hammer Schultz from the Philadelphia Flyers, and who used to go at it with everybody on the Islanders. And one day he shows up to a game before the game facing off against the Islanders, and all of a sudden his long hair is all cut off. And he tells a reporter outside Nassau Coliseum, "I have my Gary Howitt haircut. Now he can't pull my hair when we fight anymore." This used to be the NHL, everybody. My Gary Howitt haircut. It's just chopped down. Anyway, but headbutting, like in fights, that used to be a thing too. Headbutting, hair pulling, eye gouging, all of it. The 70s, half the league should have been in prison. Anyhow, I don't know that he headbutted him in our traditional sense. I think it was more he put his head down and wanted to push Timo Meier, but his head hit Timo Meier's head. We just don't see it anymore.
Yeah, I just saw it and I was like, oh, headbutting. Like, what did Brent Burns do? And then I watched it. I was like, come on.
I know.
That's not headbutting. He went head-to-head, but he didn't headbutt him, I don't think. Not in the traditional sense. But kudos to Timo Meier there, Jeff. Did his best Ridley Gregg impression. The head snapped back, all that. I'm going to get my licks in where I can. I'm going to get my licks in where I can. Come on.
Have I ever told you my theory about snapping heads back?
No.
Think about this for 1 second. I know when we see it, we all go like, oh, Stick didn't even touch him. Didn't even come close to him. Look at him snapping the head back. Turn this into soccer. Think about yourself for a second. You're walking down the street, and all of a sudden, like, something appears right in front of your face. What's your instinct?
Yeah. You're going to move your head. You're going to react.
It's not exclusive to hockey, folks. Like, just think about it in your own life. All of a sudden, something's in your face. Like, whoa. And, nothing's touched you. But the same thing happens in hockey. But we look at it and we mock it. Meanwhile, if the same thing happened to us, like walking through our kitchen and one of our kids threw a ball at us, we would do the exact same thing.
No, I'm catching it.
Anthony Stolarz was good, last night. I know we're bouncing all over the place here. Stolarz was awesome.
Yeah, and I listened to Colby and talk about it after game one, and I think he was right. He took a lot of heat for it. I don't really know why. Like, if Leafs fans watched that game one, I mean, he was
rebound control was tough in game
making
one.
saves, but the rebounds weren't there. Last night he was dialed in. Like, I thought that he was making great saves. Yeah, I thought he was all over it. That second, third period for the Maple Leafs, like, they were not dialed in there. You only gave up that one shot in the third period, and it ends up being the tying goal. Like, that's the first shot that you gave up in that third period, but he was locked in last night, Jeff, and that's not something they've traditionally got in the playoffs, is just that above and beyond goaltending. A lot of times you can get average, but not that above and beyond.
General Soreness, by the way, bless you for knowing this one. Dave the Hammer Schultz pulled Dale Rolfe's hair in the playoff. Dale Rolfe's a fenceman for the New York Rangers, then punched him about 75 times. Yes, I remember that one. You can find that one on YouTube. That was a nasty fight, and maybe one of the worst parts about it was the referee did not allow the linesman to get in to break it up as Dale Rolfe was absorbing the beating of a lifetime. Simon Benoit all of a sudden is a household name, but I don't even think it was just because of the rush and the screen. Like, his rush, all of a sudden that lane opens and it's like, oh my God, Benoit's skating with the puck down the right side. There's no one near him. This is awesome. Drop pass, which was great to Max Domi, and then as perfect a screen cascading by Linus Ullmark as you can make. Drake Batherson on the flyby, might want to think about stopping on that puck. It happens. I know Batherson right away, as soon as Domi scores, he feels like, I got the goat horns on. But at the same time, I hate being right about something. You ever have something in your life that you really hate being right about? I hate being right about
What
this.
is this one?
Linus Ullmark. What have I said all season long? I want him to be really good and shake off this reputation of not being there for big pressure moments? So far?
That he can do that next year, Jeff. I don't care. You think wait another couple games, buddy. that's where I'm at.
Top 10
I don't think last night was that bad though. I don't think last night was that bad. If Sens fans are blaming Linus Ullmark for last night, if that's how they're going to shake that down, I think they're looking
three
at the
goals
wrong
on 21
spot,
shots. 3 goals on 21
I know,
shots.
but I know, but I mean, the one goal is Max Domi shooting through 3 guys. It's Shabbat. It was, forgive me, I'm forgetting the other defender, but it's Benoit there as well as the second layer, and then whoever it was that was the other defenseman for Ottawa. It was 3 guys lined up directly in front of him. That's hard to fight through. He could get there, but the game one was the one that I looked at and was like, oof, tough night for Ullmark there. Last night, not necessarily the one that I would have put so much blame on him for.
Listen, you can always explain away goals, right? There's a great Doug McLean used to tell me the story when he was in Columbus and Rick Walmsley was his goalie coach, and they would go and then they would do video with their goaltenders, and they would run through goal after goal after goal, and Walmsley would say, "Oh, that was tipped. Oh, that was tipped. Oh, that was tipped. Oh, that one was a tip. That one was a deflection." And Doug, after a while, he told me, he goes, "I finally just lost it." And I said, "Wammer, does every effing deflection have to go in? Does every tip have to go in? Like, is that like the blanket? Like all of a sudden you get like complete clemency just because it was tipped? Like, can he stop one? Does every tip have to go in?" That's my only thing about Ullmark. He can explain away all the goals. Bad coverage, point blank shot, screen, this. Like, there's always reasons why goals are going in. Jeez, it's a tough one. It's tough, man. It's tough. All right. Time now for Daily Outlines, presented by FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. We love them. Here's what we got coming up on the program today. We got a couple of really special guests. We got some off-ice news as well. Our special guest, DJ Bean, who is standing by, Erin Ambrose from Team Canada, and the Montreal Victoire. She'll stop by. It is expansion day in the PWHL, by the way. Vancouver, the first expansion market. Expect Seattle soon. We had an interesting press conference from the Bruins. We'll probably start there with Bean, Edmonton, and the Los Angeles Kings, and we'll talk more about the playoffs as well. And with that, let us bring aboard the man of the beginning of the program. You love him from What's Chaos, and you're going to love him here now as well. As we'll bring him aboard. There he is, smiling with the beautiful hat on. That's a great lid. By the way, who does all the graphics for you guys at What's Chaos? Because it's fantastic.
Oh, amazing. The graphics is a guy, all of the logos and everything were made by a guy called Blaze, Blase. Basically, what I did was I walked around my apartment and I looked at, like, you see concert posters behind me. Yeah. And I found ones that I liked, looked up who did them, and then just reached out to all the people who made cool art. And that's how I found like various people. And got a guy, Blaze, to make this, which is amazing. The hats and the merch is Dishin, if you know of them, out of Buffalo. They're a hockey like lifestyle company, and they make the coolest stuff. They collab with a lot of players, and since we don't sound good and we don't individually look good, we make sure that our stuff looks good.
That's right. If you're not going to bring anything to the table, at least polish it up real nice. That's always been my motto for my career. It's got me as far as this program. Let me jump in before we get to the playoffs from last night. Did you catch much of the Bruins presser today? Neely, Jacobs, Sweeney. If so, did anything really jump out at you? I mean, we had Jacobs, defending raising ticket prices. We had Cam Neely opining about things like the 2015 draft, and then you always wonder like what's going through Sweeney's head when Neely's there sitting there saying things like, "Yeah, maybe we will, maybe we won't extend on. We haven't made our decision yet." Anything jump out at you from that presser today?
Yeah, so in a past life, I was a Bruins beat writer. So that day, the post-breakup day press conference with leadership was like the Super Bowl because you'd get the breakup day, the normal day where the players and a coach would give their stuff. And then the week later, it was really okay, now let's bring in the big dogs. And famously, only one team wins a year. So chances are we're going to be discussing why did it go wrong? And Cam Neely has never had an appetite for that. Doesn't like having that conversation. Clearly has been combative a few times in those. So my initial takeaway as I'm watching it is him being so combative about the drafting. And as my partner Pete Blackburn pointed out, when he asked Kevin Paul DuPont to elaborate on what he meant about the drafting and developing, that's the first time anybody has needed to explain anything about the drafting and developing of the Bruins being bad. So that's initially what I honed in on because that had the most fireworks. But ultimately, what I left with was the hierarchy and the structure as it currently sits, because we knew that heads weren't going to roll for this season. Even if we disagreed with it, we knew that that's the way it was going to be. But as stuff was hitting the fan this season, the question was, will Sweeney stick around? But also, will Neely stick around? Will this leadership as we know it and as has existed since, Neely goes back to 2010 when he took over as the president. Neely's been GM since 2015. Will this be shaken up? And so much of the tone coming from this press conference was this united front from Jacobs and Neely saying, for now, we still trust Don. And I like Cam Neely, but I kind of look at that and I'm like, shouldn't this be Jacobs saying, I still trust Cam and Don? Because I would think that not to be graphic, but there should be multiple necks in the guillotine here, no?
See, I go back and forth on that because the Boston Bruins have enjoyed, this is virgin territory here, right? We haven't seen this from the Boston Bruins. I don't know that we're asking guys to walk up 15 stairs here and put their heads in a noose for the first time that they have a season where they don't qualify for the playoffs. You know what I mean? I know it hasn't been, Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup, but, there was a Stanley Cup and there were some Stanley Cup final appearances and the team has always been competitive. Now, all of a sudden, we're in a situation where now the Boston Bruins are on the outside looking in, but it's not as if this has been 3 or 4 years of squalor or 5 or 6 years or Detroit or Buffalo. This is 1 year of not making the playoffs and all of a sudden we're asking players to walk up asking managers to walk up a flight of stairs. I don't know about that.
So I agree with that sentiment, but I do always go back to the fact that Don Sweeney has led a very charmed life as Bruins general manager. It was shocking to me that Cam Neely said, well, you got to remember this guy was hired right before the draft. So then all of a sudden he had to make draft picks. What was his last job? He was assistant general manager for a number of years, so he should have known that draft. But when I say a charmed life, I mean that he inherited Bergeron, Krejci, Chara, Rask. Chara kind of aging out of his prime, but a lot of those guys in their prime. Brad Marchand in his prime. The team had selected David Pastrnak the year before, so this was a team in very good position. And the question with Sweeney wasn't, can you get these guys back to the playoffs after everybody, and I do mean pretty much everybody on that 2014-15 team had shockingly low shooting percentages and just really everything that could go wrong in that season did go wrong. The question wasn't, can you get them back to the postseason, which it actually took him 2 years to do, which was kind of confusing. It was, will you get more cups out of this group? Because the team was unsatisfied with only getting one cup out of that regime to that point. So they say, okay, we'll make a change now that we've made the playoffs. And they got there one more time, but I'll look at 2019 as one of the great failures by a team that lost in the Stanley Cup final, because the path was laid out for them. And the Blues, for all I loved their center depth and I loved their top 4 defensemen, but boy, oh boy, was that a pretty not great team to win a Stanley Cup. So I look at that as more a failure on the Bruins. So I do not think of it as though Sweeney has been killing it on all this time. I think that the expectation has been this would be a competitive team that would win a round or two every year.
You know, one of the interesting things, the drafting question that KPD asked, I thought was fascinating. And of course, everyone's going to default to 2015 and those 3 picks in a row. What order was it? Was it
13, 4, they had 14, and then they traded for.
No, was it
Zaboral,
Zaboral, and then DeBrusk?
It went Zaboral at 13, DeBrusk at 14, and then Senyshyn at 15. And that was the one that, I mean, if you know is it McMahon, the meme where he's just like increasingly making kind of crazy faces? Yeah. Zaboral was chalk, but he was considered the best person in like the second tier of defensemen. You remember the defensemen in that draft were awesome. There was Hanifin, there was Werenski, there was a Provorov, a lot of really good defensemen.
Provorov, yeah.
Yep. And then... So, Senyshyn, you're like, okay, fine, you needed a defenseman, you just traded Dougie Hamilton. DeBrusk, well, that's a little high for DeBrusk, but maybe they know something we don't.
Goals. He shot the lights out in Swift Current. And for Senyshyn, they wanted speed. And like that's what they got. Like they wanted a dimension of speed, and so they got it. But there's a couple of other like key draft moments for the Boston Bruins for me that I always point at and say, you know what? They got it right at the table. So there was a year that they took Pasternak, and the big debate there from pretty much anyone who was in that sort of vicinity to draft these players, the big debate was who's going to be better, David Pasternak or Jacob Vrana. And then the other one was the Charlie McAvoy draft, where they took McAvoy, and I don't know if they were split like 50-50. But the other guy that a lot of people in that room wanted, and eventually, obviously, McAvoy won out that debate, was Dante Fabro.
Yeah,
and it was Dante Fabro, and they went like, "There's no way we're not taking McAvoy." They went to BU. Was the one that won out. Yeah,
they went to BU and were like, "We're thinking McAvoy, but which one is our guy here?" And BU kind of gave them the, "You're probably thinking the right way." And no disrespect to Dante Fabro, but. Yeah, that was a good decision in that group's second year. Pasternak was, I mean, I'm a Chiarelli Bobo, so I say that was Chiarelli's last year, but that was also more kind of Gretzky before he departed. But yes, they made the right call there, and you remember the risk they took with Pasternak because they'd gotten themselves into such a cap bind that they had to essentially give away Johnny Boychuk. They couldn't re-sign Jerome McGinley after he scored 30 goals for them, and they're like, you know what, Well, I think we have to replace him with the broken kid from Czech and just see if that works.
And
he's falling down in training camp, but I mean the kid could play and a grand slam. The issue is though, 6 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2015. It wasn't just the 3 in a row and that they'd gone off the board and that they missed. Like Jacob Forsbacka-Karlsson, I apologize. They kind of pressured to leave school a little early. And that may have derailed his career a bit because they just needed to show that, like, hey, they're doing this. So missteps, certainly. But you can be bad at drafting if you're good at other things. And I think the thing that this team has been good at is getting players to stay. Brad Marchand, and this is going back a number of years now, 8, re-signed on a team-friendly deal. Okay, was that Brad Marchand losing a negotiation? Or is that Brad Marchand saying, I love it here. My family's here. This is like, I want to stick around here. A lot of the great signings that they made, the team-friendly ones, those also happened in the previous regime. Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, those guys did the same thing. So Boston, I think, made those signings more so than shrewd negotiating.
Too simplistic, I know, but I just don't think it's a team that's gotten over Bergeron and Krejci, calling it a career.
No,
like you don't get over that. You don't Bergeron's one of the best to ever do it. Krejci, one of the more underrated players in the history of the game. I always, was he a slow skater? Yeah. One of the most creative guys. Like I always look at David Krejci and say there's the bullet and that's the game. And then there's that vacuum right behind the bullet. And no one played in that vacuum behind the bullet better than David Krejci. Like maybe in this entire generation, that was David Krejci's game right there. And sure, they had the dead cat bounce afterwards and had the great season, but long term, like you don't recover from that.
Yeah, the worst and best, the best and worst things that ever happened to David Krejci was he was on the same team as Patrice Bergeron. Because if Patrice Bergeron wasn't there, Boston fans would have had the appetite to revere him the way that they do Patrice Bergeron. In that, oh yeah, our guy can score a bunch of goals and our guy can make a bunch of plays, but you know what? It's his two-way game that will really get you. This guy could do a lot more offensively if he wanted to, but he cares about winning. The problem is the guy playing on the line ahead of him. And the only reason he wasn't a first-line center throughout his career was that they had a perfect version of that. And like Bergeron, Bergeron was a perfect player. David Krejci was, while not like an elite player, a perfect player in terms of what's his weakness. He's slow. Yeah, cool. Patrice Bergeron's slow too. You could be slow if, as you said, you're so cerebral and you think it's so well, if you take advantage of kind of slowing the game down because you're slow to begin with.
That's the great players do, though. Like they completely slow the game down. You know, one of the and we saw it this year with Adam Fantilli. Not that I'm comparing Bergeron to Fantilli, but like Fantilli for the longest time, when he started to finally do this, he had one speed, and it was all like everything super fast. And it wasn't until like Everson got to him and is finally using his speed, distributing the puck, not challenging, not using his speed in every single situation. All of a sudden, you become a much more dynamic player. Let me get some thoughts on playoffs here. I'm spending so much on the Boston Bruins, but man, when you have a presser like that, you got to dig in. So Kirill Kaprizov for me has been the most impressive player so far, a couple of games in. Same for you, or do you have another one to offer up?
No, it's got to be Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, I'm a Draisaitl honk, so I had to make sure today on the show to say, that is the second best pass that has been made all season, trailing only that one where Draisaitl spun around behind his own goal line and sprung Zach Hyman backhanded on a breakaway. But really, like Kirill Kaprizov's, the saucer pass last night was unbelievable, but you watch him and you watch the Wild, and you know what? God bless the Wild making this a series. I still don't know if it's going to be, but every word that you've heard about Kirill Kaprizov the last couple of years, which is, if you're not watching the Wild, you don't know enough about Kirill Kaprizov, and you don't see the impact this guy has. And yes, they're eventually going to surround him with a lot of good players once that dead money comes off the books, and maybe that begins to happen this summer. He is unbelievable. And yeah, he puts the Wild in a position where it's like, as Kirill Kaprizov goes, the Wild go, but look at how he's going. They're 1-1 with the Golden Knights, a Golden Knights team that I think has been so under-discussed with how they can run over everybody. Now it's a 1-1 series, in large part due to Kaprizov.
The thing that I like about him, like I like this about, like, every now and then you get a sort of glimpse, because you know what that pass was? It was a beer league pass. You do that in beer league because there's some guys who just have more skill than everybody else. It's like, watch this. Like there'll be like that one guy that comes out and plays with you who played Division 1, you know, and like you're a bunch of scrubs in like C division, and all of a sudden he's like making these ridiculous plays. I looked at Kaprizov making that play and I'm like, that's the ringer at beer league. Like you can do that. Someone be able to, if you're able to do that in the NHL, like kind of like saying like, you know what, here, watch this beer league play. And I know I'm sort of minimizing it, but still, like, he made it look like the NHL is my beer league. Watch me do this. And it was flawless, and it was perfect, and it was simple. And Boldy's off to the races. You're right about Minnesota, man. Like, this is the year where it's like, whatever happens next year when we have all of our cap space. Next year when we can bring in players. That's when you're going to see the Minnesota Wild. That's when they get out of jail. Salary cap jail, that's when they're going to do something. What did you make of the Florida Panthers last night? You know, I was saying, like, that was the Florida Panthers reminding everybody. Let's just remind everybody, you know?
Yeah, there were three teams going into this postseason, Jeff, where I thought, you know what? We talk and we figure out what could happen and we try to guess and what might surprise us. And maybe sometimes we're given an extra day or two before the playoffs begin because we just come up with too many ideas and come up with too many theories. There were three teams that I thought have the chance to make us all look stupid for wondering what might happen with them. One of them was the Washington Capitals because they were screwing around so much to the point where like they seemed unaware that they were losing games late in the season. They were just having so much fun. So I worried, is their head totally in the game? One of them is the Oilers because we just hadn't seen what they would look like. And they always start off horribly in the postseason. But maybe they just come out and they roll. And the last one is the Florida Panthers. They have a little bit of the Oilers thing where you haven't totally seen what they're going to be, but you sort of have. It's just they've been, like, Matthew Tkachuk hasn't been there for a little while, and Aaron Ekblad's been suspended. Always looming, and I love the Lightning, was this idea that they were going to come out and be like, At what point over the last 2 years have we given you any reason to question us? So good on them. I thought that it was fascinating that John Cooper challenged that Schmidt goal in the second period. I wonder if it's because officiating has been so wonky and because Florida in a 3-1 game maybe is already sewing it up, that Cooper's throwing that Hail Mary saying, you know what? If I lose this challenge, we probably lose the game. But there have been enough bad calls this postseason that maybe they'll break one off for me. I thought that was maybe a commentary on the officiating, but also maybe a commentary that in game one, John Cooper's like, man, we might need any bounce we can get.
You know what's interesting about that? This is the one year that I think they've got the goalie interference call almost right every single time. Like I think goalie interference has been called more correctly than like high sticking or tripping or elbowing. I think honestly it has been the most consistent call this year. I know they always get torn apart about the goalie interference calls. I think this year is the one year out of all of them that pretty much all of them have been right.
Yeah, I mean that one that they got last night was kind of a layup, but maybe it's honestly just fishing, like I said, to see. Yeah. Will we get that in God, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what's he doing? He's going against the Florida Panthers. If you don't remember the second round last year, anything goalie interference related with the Panthers went the Panthers' way last year. So maybe that was a fool's errand on Cooper's part.
You mentioned Draisaitl a couple of seconds ago. I got like 5 minutes left with you here. I want to get more thoughts on Edmonton and LA. So I walk away from game one. Like I was asking Zach this on the show. I walk away from game one. And I'm like, okay, so LA won the game, but I don't know who really won the game. You know what I mean? Like, sure, the Kings are up 1-0, but did they win like the bigger picture game? Or did the Oilers win that game?
Again, we think of all the scenarios that can happen, and Pete made the point of like everything is on the table with the Oilers. Every weird combination of whatever, if the Oilers are involved, throw in whatever combination you want. And I came out of that game saying, on What Chaos, I'll clean it up, we put teams on a-hole watch. And the Kings are the only team that has gotten the combination of a great win and then been put on a-hole watch. Because this game left Kings fans thinking, oh my God, it's happening again. Oh my God, Connor McDavid. They got that. I talked to Kings fans. I talked to people that were in the building, and it was weird. I'm an Oilers fan, and I wasn't particularly worried after the game. Really, I just wanted to know from Kings fans, like, tell me, you were horrified, weren't you? And they were like, absolutely. Good. That's all I need. I can go to bed now. And that's kind of what resulted from that game. The Kings got out of that one, and Pete and I were streaming during it in the third period, and the Kings were up 2 goals, and I said, this sounds stupid, but the Kings need to be up 2 more goals. They need to win by 4 goals if they want to feel that they dominated this game the way that they did. Because, like, I tip my cap to the Kings for how they sort of neutralized McDavid for the first 2 periods of that game. And Pete was saying, oh, like, no, what? Like, who cares about moral victories with this? If the Kings win, then the Kings will win. And then we saw what happened, and it's like a moral loss for LA.
Yeah, they won the game, but lost the war. You know, it's because I don't believe in momentum between games in the playoffs. I think these are like 7 one-game series. Like I don't think that momentum carries. Except in this case, I kind of do. Like if I'm Edmonton, I'm walking in there tonight at Crypto.com just the same way that the Florida Panthers walked into Amalie Arena yesterday and said, you know, we're the big boys here now. We have the Stanley Cup. We don't care that we're in your barn. We're the big boys here. That's kind of feel like Edmonton.
Knobloch's been going pedal to the metal. Tyler Yaremchuk, our mutual friend, who is the absolute best, made such a great point because I was getting on him for sending Bouchard and the big guns out when it was tied late because clearly he was going for the jugular, and I hated that. And Tyler brought up the point of the Oilers almost should have wanted to get to overtime instead of winning in regulation, because you make it that much worse for the Kings. You give them that intermission where they are thinking, oh my God. And that sort of feeling is going to last the rest of the series when Edmonton inevitably wins. But they're doing it again, like loading up, going with Draisaitl and McDavid together, which I generally don't like doing. And I think that it's kind of a panic move in a way, but also it's not a bad way to continue to scare LA if they are feeling any sort of way coming out of that one.
In case of emergency, break glass. Quenneville did that with Taves and Kane. They're always separated until they needed something, and then they put it together. They would put those two together, and it was that in case of emergency, break glass move. And I agree. Like it make no doubt about it. Like it's a panic move. Like you put those two together when, okay, we got to manufacture something here. And it's really got to happen. It is really interesting, psychologically beating a team in overtime and coming back that way, I do think is just like so deflating. The only thing I can relate it to, we've had the big conversation, who's the best goal scorer of all time? And Alexander Ovechkin has scored the most goals, and Wayne Gretzky this, and Mike Bossy always comes up. The goals per game is always the biggest. What I always point to with Bossy, and Kelly Rudy told me this story, so like Bossy would shoot after practice at the middle of the net, buckets of pucks, middle of the net, not corners, not bar down, not tight, right in the middle of the net from all different areas in front of the net. And Kelly said, why are you doing that? And he said, Kelly, I don't want to be the guy that scores over a goalie's shoulder. I don't want to be the guy that goes like bar down. I want to be like in the post and in, because a goalie can say, well, it's just a perfect shot. I want it to go between his legs. I want it psychologically. I want the goalie to feel like I put the puck through him because it fucks with his head. That's what I want. I want to mess with a goalie's head. And hearing you talk about sitting in the dressing room, overtime on the horizon, and we've just squandered 4, messing with someone's head, right? It's like slap shot. Got him in the mind. Got him in the mind. Yeah. Got him right in the mind.
And, Zach texted me today and said, yeah, how you feeling? And I was like, I can't say this on my show because it just sounds so obnoxious, but I'm like they can lose 2-0 and it'll be okay. And I don't know if you saw just because it's terrible behavior. It's terrible behavior, but this just is what this team is. I don't know if you saw the stat that Stoff put out, which is games 1 through 3 since 2022 for the Oilers, 10-18, well below 500, well below 400. In fact, games 4 through 7, 19-7, 730. So you want a team that is willing to play with their food. I'll caution, and everyone has said it, this Kings team is better than the past ones. And I trust Kemper more than I've trusted any of these past goaltenders. And I think especially if you're going to do the sort of lineup maneuvers that Edmonton is tonight, where they really are sort of loading up that first line, you're asking for trouble and asking for Quentin Byfield to continue to feast. But man, it's just, there is one team in the league like this, that it doesn't matter if they are in a 4-0 hole or if they're in a 3-0 series hole. So that's why they play them, I suppose.
Don't change it. Yeah. Oh, they're down 4 Cobb in the third. Oh, what else? Don't do it. Don't do it.
An overshare. I was watching with my girlfriend, and after 2 periods, she was like, it's really late. East Coast. I said, I know. You can go to bed. And she said, wake me up if it gets interesting. And as they're coming back, I'm like, it technically is interesting, but I don't think they're winning this game. And then eventually I had to break down the door and yell, McDavid scored. They tied it. I'm going to live forever. And I run back in because I'm doing the stream with Pete and Sean, and she comes back in and the game's over. And she's like, what happened? That's the Edmonton Oilers experience.
Philip Deneau happened as a lazy back check from
not Stu's
29
fault.
and 97.
Not Stu's fault. Everyone makes everything about Stu. And they benched the wrong Skinner tonight.
How about that, eh?
I hate it. I was wearing my Jeff Skinner Sabres shirt today. I hate it. I don't know what that man did to Chris Knobloch, but
he gets 1 game. Your streak is over. Enjoy. Now put your suit and tie on.
With all these coaching maneuvers, Knobloch didn't give the hottest line in hockey 1 game. He did. Skinner, McDavid, and Brown were nails when McDavid came back. And we can guess why, but that line was really good and really successful, really productive. No. I'm surprised they didn't do that, but I guess we cannot. We should not sleep on the apparent hatred that one Chris Knobloch, who I quite like, holds for our dear friend Jeff Skinner.
I do love him. Love him going back to it's funny. People don't believe me when I say this, but when I'm gonna turn to that guy, Bean. when he played junior with the Kitchener Rangers in the playoffs, there was like this Brad Marchand quality he had. Like he was like angry, angry, dirty, faster than everybody. But he was that guy. And I remember talking to someone at Carolina, like in the organization when they drafted him, and they're like, "What are we getting from this guy?" I'm like, "You're getting like the new Pat Verbeek. Like you're getting a better skating Pat Verbeek. Like that was that guy." In junior hockey, like he had that nastiness to him. He would go crazy when they would be losing. I loved watching him as a junior. He was great.
A dirty player that of whom I am very fond said that really only went off on one guy and talking about how dirty a player he was and that Slewfoot's people all the time. And the player being described was Jeff Skinner. And the person speaking the words was Brad Marchand. Jeff Skinner is who Brad Marchand calls dirty. Okay? And that's why, and we were talking before the series trying to come up with line combinations, and Sean was saying, why don't you do Skinner with Perry? Why don't like a Skinner, Perry, Frederick thing and try to awaken the you-know-what that Jeff Skinner could once be?
Just miserable to play against. Dude, continued success. We will check back soon and often. All the best to Pete and to Sean, and continue the success that is What Chaos. Really appreciate you stopping by today, pal.
Thank you, my friend. You know that we're the biggest fans, so we really appreciate it.
You said that just as I wrote it. Look at that. All right, you read scripts good. That's fine. All right, thanks, bud. You talk soon. There he is, the great DJ Bean from the What Chaos show, along with Pete Blackburn. Want to remind you here, as we're bringing on Erin Ambrose from the Montreal Victoire, your motorhome or trailer or travel trailer isn't just for getaways. It's a moneymaker on wheels. Think of it that way. Most RVs sit parked in the driveway. With RV Easy, you can rent out your motorhome or travel trailer and earn over $20,000 this year. Founded, owned, and operated by Canadians, RV Easy takes care of everything, including full insurance coverage provided for every rental. And best of all, you choose when to rent and set your own pricing. List your RV for free today at rvezy.com. That's rvezy.com. RV Easy. Rent your RV. Make money easy. With that, we'll bring her aboard from the Montreal Victoire. The league woke up this morning and had 6 teams, and the league goes to bed tonight, and there are 7. We're talking about the PWHL, and we're talking with Erin Ambrose. First of all, love the CCM shirt.
Thank you, sir.
Is that the Ambrose line?
This is the EA23 line, version 1. Version 2 will be coming out shortly.
Ooh, do you have a tease for us? Maybe something you can put up in the background there, E. Ambrose?
I don't yet. I don't have it in my hands yet. But once I do, I'm sure I'll get it out there.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I don't even know how to say this, but do you congratulate someone on a silver medal? Because I know that athletes at the time don't feel like it's an achievement, but then years later you look back and you go, that was still something really special. And it was a wonderful game. And again, here we go, Canada, US, going into overtime because nobody wants to make it easy. Congratulations. And I mean that sincerely.
I know you do. And thank you. I think maybe 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have actually said thank you. And I would have told you to just shut up. But it's like that now. I mean, it always has been since I've been in the program. I think of the gold medal games that I've gone to in world championships, all but one have gone into overtime.
Yeah, it is something so unique about this rivalry. And I'm sure you've thought of it often. Like you're one of, and now finally the men's side is caught up to the women. You're part of one of the best rivalries in the history of hockey. Does the size of that ever sort of dawn on you, or are you sort of oblivious to it because you've always been swimming in that water?
I think a little bit oblivious to it, honestly, with the Four Nations and that event and how heated Canada-US was at that. Like everybody talked about it and was like, look at this rivalry. And it was like, you're a little late. This has been going on for a very long time on our side. But I think somebody had asked me before the tournament if I thought our rivalry with the US was going to get even more intense because of what it was like at Four Nations. And I was like, I don't think it can. I don't think it actually can get any more than it already is. Like nothing's adding fuel to the fire other than us losing now in this year's gold medal game. Like that adds fuel to the fire for the next time we see them. But like other than internal things, like I don't think there's things that can add to it.
You know, this one of the things that people wondered about was with the creation of the PWHL, what was that going to mean to the Canada-US rivalry, given that now all of a sudden someone that you've hated playing against for years and years and years, you're now sharing a room, and you're sharing, you know, that person is your D partner, or that person is your left winger. But it doesn't seem as if that is actually a thing. Or is it? Like, does it feel different now?
A little bit. Like, I think my first world championship was 2017, and the only person I ever, and I don't even know if I had much of a conversation with her at the tournament, but the only person on the States that I ever would have talked to would have been Megan Duggan, because she had been my coach at college. Right. But then she was also captain of the US team, and it was like, oh no, definitely not. But it was kind of nice. I'm not going to lie, at this World's, like, it was just us and Czechia in a hotel together. Oh yeah. So like, I'm not kidding you when I say, like, I did not see the Americans or any other team other than when we played against them.
Czechia had a great tournament. Czechia was really good.
Yep, they've got a lot of skill.
Yeah, and we see, like, and listen, a lot of it's playing for Ottawa, as well. When you also in considering the coaching situation there too. Last one on the World Championships. I'm always curious, like, what was unique about this one? I know they're all different. What was unique about this tournament? The venue, whether it was, you know, playing where you were. I'm sure you had plenty of walks down cobblestone streets. Like, what was it about this tournament?
It's funny you say that, because our first game day, Nursey and I were both in heels, walking down the cobblestone street with Jenner to go get coffee. I never wore heels again the rest of the tournament. Nursey did, but Nursey actually ended up wearing running shoes the one day to get coffee, and then switched into her heels. What was different? I think it was incredible, the fan support. Like, they truly embraced us, and not just Czechia. Like, everybody came to every single game. Didn't matter who it was. If it was Group B teams, like, there were fans in the building the whole time. And that was really, really exciting. And they were loud and they were fun. I think that other than a crowd at the Bell Center, nothing quite compares to European crowds. They're just a different vibe. Yeah.
That's so true. That is
and
so
even,
true.
Even a Bell Center vibe is not, like, those fans are not the same as European vibes. Like, they have a party, and it's fun to see. And then I would just say it was learned a lot about Easter traditions in Czechia. Oh yeah. Yeah, so there was like some creepy masks that they would wear when they did things throughout the day. It was we learned a lot.
Any stories?
I'd never got to sleep in because it was like every 4 hours they used these, they were almost like carts, and they would push them and they would make a whooshing noise, and it was loud, and then they do it to a beat of a drum. I guess it's to keep away the evil spirits. So learned a lot.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So back home, nobody has any idea how this is all going to sort itself out. You know, the PWHL here, and who's in and who's out. It's kind of been a wild ride so far this season in the PWHL. But I want to ask you about and I'm glad we have you on right now, and that the announcement was made earlier so I can ask you officially about it. I still think Seattle's on the horizon, Climate Pledge Arena. We'll see what goes on there. Anyway, Vancouver, the first expansion market announced by the PWHL. Now, you were part of the tour, and you've played there, and you know what those fans are like. I don't know if you watched the press conference today at all.
I did.
But Tessa did a tremendous job, no surprise. Just your thoughts on Vancouver.
Her bit for Pooh.
What's that? Yeah, I know, right?
I liked her. Yeah, she, as she should, when she dropped that. Sid did score the golden goal, but Pooh had two. I was just like, gotta be Tess. Job well done.
Look, she's the clutchiest player that ever clutched, like in the history of clutch. We all know that by now. But Vancouver joins the fold for the PWHL, to which Erin Ambrose says what?
Very excited. First and foremost, like the city of Vancouver, I think truly deserves it. We did, I guess, Seattle, Vancouver, and Denver were our 3 stops, and then Quebec City. But we did those 3 all in a row, and not knocking Denver or Seattle because they were both great, but Vancouver was the most well attended, and not even just well attended, just like so engaged. I think around the city there was a lot of hype, and it's a beautiful place. Like I think just BC, and I'm excited that there is an expansion team in Canada, because I think like we all had questions as to where we knew that there was a lot of possibility that expansion was going to happen. So I'm glad that a team, and I don't know if there is another team. I truthfully can't say.
Excuse me, I'm just going to cough here.
I can't say one way or another. I have no confirmation.
Yes, I know.
But to know that a Canadian expansion team is here is really, really exciting. I think if you look at all 3 markets in Canada, the fan bases in each one of those markets has, I think, far exceeded expectations. So to know that Vancouver obviously showed up for our game against Toronto there and now has their own team, they deserve it. I'm excited for them. And I'm really excited for the league to kind of take another step in growth and opportunities.
23 new jobs.
Plus.
And a plus, right? Plus, but there's, manager, they have to fill out an entire team, obviously. But when you think 23 new jobs here, like what goes through your mind? I mean, you've seen, like, it's hard to play it's hard to make it to the PWHL. Yeah. We all know that. And there are a lot of players that are knocking on the door. When you hear 23 new jobs, you're saying like, okay, finally now she can play. Now finally there's a door, there's a path for her to get into the PWHL.
Yeah, I think like looking at the draft class that's coming out, and it's hard because I feel like the further out of college I get, the less I know the players coming out of college. I just don't have the amount of time to really watch and the connection to watching the draftees, I guess. But I do know that this is a very, very strong draft class. So to sit there and think that if Vancouver wasn't happening, the amount of players that were coming in, it was like, okay, wow, like the top draft picks this year, I think, are truly going to push a lot of people down in lineups, which is a great thing. But I also think it was going to knock people out that are already here that are doing such a good job. So that 23 player roster, that who knows what's going to happen with our reserves, but like 25, 28 players, like that's huge for this league. I think to keep people involved, to bring in more Europeans. We're starting to see a shift, I think, in the international game, and the skill that is coming out of college, that is coming in from European countries, is only going to better our game and better our teams. And I think that it's something that's really exciting for our game and for this league in general.
I'm glad you mentioned the European countries because, I look at a country like Finland, and one of the things that someone told me not too long ago was like, if the PWHL is going to expand, they need to do it ASAP because countries like Finland are locking up their athletes. Like they're locking them up so they don't go. Do you think this is part of the motivation that, do you think it's part of the motivation now that here we are heading into season 3 of the PWHL and already there's the first stage of expansion? Do you think it's a reflection of trying to loosen up some of those players from Europe to make the jump and not get locked up? Finland's the obvious one.
That's a tough one because we got a bunch of the top players last year. I think the players that we did get over to the PWHL from Sweden, Finland, like Czechia, like those 3 countries, I think are the 3 that are very close. And I don't know kind of if people are shy to come, like a little bit nervous to come, which, I mean, rightfully so. Moving across the world, I think brings that, which is very valid. But I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know how many are going to come over this year. I don't know who's going to come over. I haven't really been hearing a lot, but I'm sure I can talk to Lena Youngblom and find out who else will be coming over from Sweden. And it's an exciting thing. And I think that the best part is that And I think this is the biggest thing for us is there's a lot of goaltenders right now that are starters in different countries that are not in starting positions in the PWHL. And I think that those are opportunities that with the expansion is going to bring great results for them, I should say.
That is an excellent point. Before I let you go, I have to ask about the Stanley Cup playoffs and your team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes, my team.
Did you watch last night?
I did watch last night. I even watched 2 periods of game 1, which, might I add, started at 1 a.m. in Czechia. So I did watch 2 of the periods.
Committed Leafs fan. I get it.
Always.
The Leafs are up 2-0 heading to Ottawa. This show is heading to Ottawa. We're going to do the show for the next couple of days in the nation's capital. I don't know that anyone
I'm heading to Ottawa for a game. Hold on. Time out. When are you in Ottawa?
I'm driving right after today. I'm going to be there Thursday, Friday. When are you going?
We play on Saturday in Ottawa.
I got to go to Niagara. My kid's got a tournament.
Why do you keep doing this? Anywho,
come meet me in Ottawa. Listen, like 4:01 or whenever when the show's over, I'm hopping in the car and driving to Ottawa. I'll meet you in Canada at 9:30. 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'll meet you in Canada. Come on, Ambrose. Hop in the Batmobile.
Continue with my Leafs.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Closing question. Do you think this series is over?
Absolutely not. Anybody who thinks this series is over, one, is not a true Leafs fan. You can't ever think
knowledgeable Leafs fan.
Exactly, until 4 games have been won.
Yeah.
2, I'm an athlete, and I know that no series is ever over until you win that 4th game. Like, you can joke about being a Leafs fan and different trauma that we have and different things that have gone on, but
hockey scars, Erin. Hockey scars.
Yes, but I think even just as an athlete, like, if you think you're supposed to win at home, everybody always says, nothing changes. The series doesn't start until somebody loses at home. Yeah. So the Leafs did their job. They won their first 2 games. They did their job. Now they're going to go into, which we're hearing is going to be a little bit of a hostile environment. I don't know if
we'll see how many of yours get in, Ambrose. That's going to be really interesting.
So, but you're going to Ottawa, and honestly, I think that the Sens are just starting to figure it all out too.
Yeah.
Like, I think I don't think Drake Batherson or Dylan Cousins misses a hit in game 3 after missing that on Domi's overtime winner. I think everything's going to be bumped up another notch.
Do you have let me focus on that one. I'm curious your thoughts as a player here. That's a tough one for Drake Batherson. As soon as that went in, my first thought is like, oh, Batherson with the flyby and it's overtime and you can't do it. Like, how did you read that entire play from Benoit's rush, the drop to Domi, the cut to the middle, which used to be like, no one cut to the middle like that. You don't do it. But then the Batherson flyby and a great jumping screen by Simon Benoit on that play. How did you see that as a player?
Honestly, was a little bit nervous when Ottawa was coming down the other way, and it was a great read. Like, everybody's, I think Bieksa was talking about it last night during the broadcast, like an if you play to make for Batherson on his backhand of the middle of the ice. But I wouldn't have pegged Benoit to be a guy that would jump that pass. Usually he'll just accept the rush and kind of defend it quietly, I would say is the right way to put it. And then to move his feet out of it. Honestly, I didn't like Benoit's drop to Max. I thought it was telegraphed. I thought it was slow, and I thought that was getting turned over. Yeah. Ottawa didn't gap up well enough on the rush to begin with. I don't know who it was. I don't know who the D were, but Max makes a skilled play. He actually makes 2 skilled plays when he picks up that puck. And then you mentioned it. That flash screen by Benoit, I think, actually was huge. He doesn't just make the drop pass and kind of fade into the corner and stay on the outside. He goes to the net, and Max isn't scoring that if Benoit doesn't flash screen.
You know what Harry Neal used to say about drop passes? It's one of my favorite lines.
Gosh, what?
Erin, there's 2 places you should never make drop passes. At home and on the road. Everywhere else, you can make drop passes. Just not at home and not on the road. Wisdom from one of the greats, Harry Neal. Welcome back. Good luck against Ottawa, even though you're not going to go early to see your buddy Jeffy. That's fine.
I get in on Friday. You make the effort.
I leave on Friday. I got to go to Niagara. My kid's got a tournament. Get in early.
Commitment is lacking, Jeff Marek.
I'm going to be bored on my drive, and I am calling you, and you can entertain me for the 5-hour drive. In the meantime, we'll bid you good afternoon and congratulate you again. And good luck the rest of the way this season with the PWHL. Congratulations to your league on expansion as well. It looks great. 3 years in, and the league is already expanding. Erin, thanks as always. You be well.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a good weekend.
There she is, Erin Ambrose, a defender for the Montreal Victoire of the PWHL and Team Canada, winning silver in the most recent World Championships in Czechia. Now then, some orders of business before we bid you good afternoon. Again, I'll remind you, tomorrow this show is on at 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll put out some promos for it to remind you, but we're changing times for the next couple of days. We'll be in Ottawa for Game 3, so the show goes 1 o'clock Thursday Eastern, 1 Eastern Thursday, 1 Eastern Friday as well. In the meantime, JP Weisers, I need some line combinations here, folks. JP Weisers, proudly Canadian, celebrates the moment with a limited edition Stanley Cup bottle, the perfect match for you and your game night crew, because the playoffs are best enjoyed with great whiskey and good company. Now you and your friends can lift the Stanley Cup bottle for Canada with JP Weisers, the official whiskey of the NHL. For 165 years, JP Weisers has been woven into the fabric of Canadian celebrations, bringing people together to raise a glass to the passion and pride that fuel Canada's game. And Zach, what are we looking at today as far as interesting line combinations for the games that we have this evening?
The one that I was picking out was courtesy of our friends over on Daily Faceoff, where I check lineups every day and trying to see what's going on with the Leafs ahead of each game day. But today was Oilers specific, and more so about the second line there. We're looking at Evander Kane slotting into the second line. Leon Draisaitl bumped up to the first line. DJ talked about that there as well, loading up the first line. But it's that Evander Kane name that was sticking out to me. I pulled it up. I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised, Jeff, because we knew, right? We knew. But I saw it and I went, well, it's happening. We heard that the league was not really happy with all the LTIR stuff, and maybe the Oilers, under the behind the scenes were like, oh, yeah, you can't go game 1. Well, he's ready for game 2. But I saw him jump back there, and I was like, all right, so it begins.
Let me pick up on that conversation quickly. I've always been of the mind that there are managers that will grumble about what's happened with LTIR, whether it's Tampa with Kucherov, Chicago with Kane. I know there are people that always grumble about it, but I thought when push came to shove that nothing was going to be done about it. Because it's how else are you going to do it? What other mechanisms are we going to create here? Put it this way: is the juice worth the squeeze for this one? Is it worth making a new rule or a combination of new rules to avoid a Kucherov situation or a Pat Kane situation? Is it worth it? But now it does very much seem like the NHL wants to do something about it, and maybe even do something about it before this CBA expires. I always thought it was going to be a negotiating point in the next CBA discussion. I don't think that way anymore. I think that there's enough smoke here that makes me believe that they might just deal with this before the CBA is up.
My beef with them, I have no issue if they want to revisit this in the summer. I get that, and I get them being frustrated with the way that this has gone down the last couple of years, whatever, and they want to fix this, change it, whatever. Mm-hmm. I was really annoyed. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm agitated because I'm on edge is the better way to put it, because if I'm dealing with Leafs playoffs, and that never really puts me in the right mood at this time. It's just ups and downs at all time, and anything could have me ready to swing. But I'm hearing that the league's not happy with the LTIR, and that's what's going on. And it's not confirmed, it's kind of just grumblings and stuff. I'm like, well, you can control this in a way. You set these rules out in place, and
No,
teams
that's
are
that's
taking
gotta be,
it.
that,
but
that's a
teams are taking
negotiation with the
advantage of
Players
what's going on.
Association. That's a negotiation with the Players Association too. That's
But
not
my
just,
point is, like, you've allowed
just not
this to be the case, and they're
arbitrarily.
just taking what's happening. Like, you're allowed to do this. Is my point?
Yeah.
You're allowed to do this. So
Well, no, hang on. No,
what
hang
are
on.
we slapping guys on the wrist
Technically,
for?
no, hang on. Technically, you're not. You're not allowed to do this if the player's not injured. I think a lot of people like the policing around this needs to be different. And if the policing around it isn't going to be different, then do they need to step in and say, okay, if you don't play game 82, you can't play game 83, and then you can go on from there.
Okay,
Or
but
you do like some GMs have proposed, like you have to have a salary cap compliant lineup for every single for every single game.
so then my question, which because I actually don't know, and maybe you can help myself and other people in the chat here, then is the league not involved in the monitoring of
Yes.
the injuries?
Yes.
Like, I was under the impression
Yes.
that they had to know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what are we talking about here then? If the guy's injured or not? Like, isn't the league supposed to be at least? Shouldn't they have somebody who's more involved in that process then, who says no, Matthew Tkachuk can play and should play in game 79, 80, and not waiting till the playoffs here? Or, Kucherov could have actually played in game 65 of the year and not wait till the playoffs. Like, but isn't there a guy who's around, or a person who's around?
You know what the interesting thing about it is, though, too? When you consider, like, the nature of hockey, I just assume that everybody's hurt always.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, if you're on LTIR, for example, and you want to fudge the system, like, everybody's hurt. You can make a case for a lot of players that probably shouldn't be out there. Like, I look at the Dallas Stars right now. And this has been true of the Dallas Stars for a couple of years. Like, don't tell me they're not banged up. Don't tell me, like, you look at the Dallas Stars, but don't tell me that team is not significantly banged up. Like, more so than just, like, Heiskanen's not in the lineup or Jason Robertson's not in the lineup. Like, I look at the whole roster and say, yeah, this team's, like, and that's why, like, man, it's going to be a really tough chore against Colorado because they're all dinged up. They're all bashed in. You make a case for so many different players for being on LTIR and have, someone from the league come and check on them. And is this guy hurt? Well, yeah. Everybody's hurt. Where does it hurt?
Yeah.
Whole body every day. It's hockey. We're 65,
Everything,
70 games into
everywhere,
this.
always.
Yeah, it all hurts. It's like the great Chris Botta press release about Rick DiPietro. Will not be playing tonight due to general body soreness. Like, that's everybody.
General soreness in chat.
General soreness in the chat. Yeah, that's right. That might just be Chris Botta's burner right there. I could just be like Chris Botta behind that handle on the chat.
Yeah.
General soreness, if that is indeed your real name. Anyhow, yeah, that's an interesting one, but it does very much feel to me like the league is very much serious about this, and by that I mean a lot of the general managers are, and they do want something done about this. I don't know.
I got one more lineup for you. I'm gonna pop it up
What do
on
you
the
got?
screen. Not even gonna
Sure.
say a
What's
word.
up?
You're gonna like it.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so good. Like, you want to talk about
The
making my
Colorado
day?
Avalanche.
Gabriel
Yeah.
Landeskog, your boy's favorite player.
Yeah. Their third line.
I really do think, by the way, that was not just a let's get him through a day in game 2 and see how he feels. I think that they really thought that he was going to go in. I know I might be in the minority on that one. I get it. I understand, but I really thought that there was the strong consideration that he was going into that game, and that wasn't just a let's walk him through the routine for the day. But Gabriel Landeskog is back. Honestly, when Gabe Landeskog hits the ice, how loud is Ball Arena going to be? Like, let's get there. Let's get there now. The sheet is powered by FanDuel. Let's go through the games too. The sheet is powered by FanDuel, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Now, St. Louis and Winnipeg have an off day today, so we got 3. We've got Montreal and Washington, Caps up 1-0. We got Edmonton, Los Angeles at Crypto.com. I don't know who won the first game. I really can't tell you who won that first game. I know it says that Los Angeles is leading the series 1-0, but again, did they really win that game? But
I have a different opinion on it than you do, by the way.
Okay, what's your opinion?
Maybe I'm just a little bit more cynical of it, and because I've been doubting this Edmonton team a bit this year already, but I look at it from the side of LA where that feels like a positive, and I know you're talking about momentum going through, but that feels like a positive for LA where in years past it's felt like they couldn't outscore some of the issues that they've had in these series against Edmonton when stuff has come up. So I look at it from the other side where I'm like, yeah, you let them come back. It was sketchy. It was not fun in that third period for the LA Kings. And like our boss, both of ours, yours now too, Almo, last night we were talking about the Leafs at the end of the third period. They were like, almost said they were like the boxer, against the ropes at the end of the fight. That's kind of what LA was doing in that third period until finally they landed the knockout punch with 40 left.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like, to me at least, LA can walk away and be like, that was gross, that was ugly, we didn't like it, but we can do it. And you could score, you could get it done. I don't think Kemper's going to play like that again. I think he's going to have a better game. Like, I just feel like they had a lot of positives to take away that were like, we didn't do this before, we couldn't do this before, but we could do it now.
Or did they use up all their goals?
Hey, I mean, that's the other side. Yeah.
Can I be a real hockey geek for a second? You know, I love another thing that I wanted to mention this the other day. I didn't get a chance to. You know what I really love that game? I have, as a Canadian, I have a real soft spot in my heart for 6-5. To me, that is Team Canada's score, 6-5. 1972, Game 8, 6-5. 1987, Canada Cup, all three games, Canada versus Soviet Union, 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. So whenever I see 6-5, I'm always like, the Canadian score. That's it. There's no context other than like that's the Canadian score. I have no point. I just smile when I see 6-5 because historically that's the Canadian score. 6-5. Still close. Exciting game. Could go either way. A lot of goals. 6-5.
Yeah.
You have like a score.
I don't have the same
have
mental association. Sorry. Yeah, 4-1.
You weren't even born. You weren't even born when these games happened.
No.
I mean, I was 3 for 7.
If you were asking me if there's a score that sticks out in my mind and gives me the
4-1.
some mental association, yeah, it's 4-1. Yeah, it gives me the
nightmares
and that score
the
comes
sweats
up. Yeah.
For 4-1.
Yeah.
All right, I'm hopping in the Batmobile and going to Ottawa. So tomorrow, the show is at 1 o'clock Eastern. Ditto for Friday. Heading to Ottawa for Game 3, and I'll count the Maple Leafs fans for you, and I'll report back. Are you at Greta tomorrow?
You'll probably have an easier time counting the Sens fans.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be fascinating to see who the home team is for Game 3.
I know.
See how many actually get in.
But yes, we'll be at Greta. Producer Vic and I will be at Maple Leaf Square leading up to game time. We're going to be doing some on-the-street content, and then we'll be back at Greta to watch the game, watch along, come join us there, and post-game at Greta tomorrow again.
That is
and Saturday too, point out as well. Yes. 590 King Street West, downtown Toronto.
Love it. Awesome. You have a good time. Send my best to producer Vic. Make sure he doesn't wear the lampshade because he has a show to produce in the morning. Thank you very much. There he goes, the one and only Zach Phillips. Thanks to Erin Ambrose from the Montreal Victoire of the PWHL. Big news today coming out of that league. They expand initially by 1. There should be another one on the horizon. Seattle coming next. But Vancouver becomes team number 7 in the PWHL, soon to be 8 as well. Thanks to DJ Bean from What Chaos for stopping by also. Enjoy the games tonight, 3 of them. We'll be back again tomorrow. I think this show is at Canadian Tire Center. Like, we'll be in the rink tomorrow for the next couple of days, so that'll be a lot of fun. Guests to be announced. In the meantime, enjoy the games tonight. They're always good. Man, the playoffs have been fantastic so far. Hope you're enjoying them as much as I have been. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Have a great day. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.